Louisiana was in the first tier of states. I believe there were 4 states that were approved at the same time, and so we were the first tier of states that were approved under this new modified unemployment program that the president established by executive order. So the funds will be flowing here virtually faster than anywhere else in the country. We've got to stop looking at this at unemployment in a vacuum. Our negotiations have covered a much broader suite or portfolio of things, such as making another stimulus payment to adults and to children. We've looked at doing another round of a paycheck protection program, additional funds for testing and for schools, because the reality is that if our kids can go back to school safely, and because we have the right testing protocols and equipment there and protective measures there, that allows the parents to go back to work, which means we need things like another paycheck protection program round out there available to these small businesses, to these job creators. And so we really are looking at this holistically. I think that ultimately you will see another round of stimulus payments. I think you'll see an extension of some modified form, less generous form of unemployment. I think that additional round of a PPP will be put in place, and I think that even funds for state and local governments with a little bit more flexibility, recognizing some of the extraordinary impacts on them. Kieran, I'll give you one statistic that's just mind-boggling. For the month of June, we took in $240 billion in tax revenue. That same month, $1.1 trillion was spent. That is obviously an unsustainable pace, and we've got to make sure that the funds we're spending are truly needed, that we're focusing on the individuals and families most impacted, and that these dollars are truly an investment that will provide a return for our nation, for our communities, and for those impacted citizens.
This is our 20th year in a row to get it, and we'll use that. We put that on projects that we can get started before the end of September.
So the state of Louisiana is going to benefit to the tune of $14 million in extra funds this year. We're really excited about that because, as you know, we have some of the worst traffic in America.
Each year we're allocated a sum of money from the federal government. This year is about $760 million, and we're authorized to spend like 90% of that. So we spend that money throughout the year on projects, and then when we get to the end of the fiscal year, like 10% that is not spent because we don't have the authorization to do so, we can request part of that money back and use it for projects that we can finish by the end of the federal fiscal year, which is the end of September. We're going to spread that around on several projects throughout the state, but we're going to take that $14 million that we'll be able to save by putting it on shovel-ready projects, and we're going to use that to buy some right-of-way for the I-10 widening project here in Baton Rouge. We just don't get $14 million to spend on anything we want. We get $14 million and we have to meet certain guidelines, and one of the main guidelines is that project has to be ready to roll by the end of September. Years past, some of the projects that money has gone to has been like PQ Lane, Terrace Avenue here in town, and we spread them out across the state. So, you know, it's money. We spend all the money we can get, and projects vary from project to project, but generally it's 10% match for the state. It can be 20% on some projects.
We don't have the ability to go out and advocate for federal funds for a bridge yet because there's not a project identified. The state, and it really is hard to believe, but the state has been working now for a number of years to try to come up with exactly where that alignment is, what this new bridge project looks like. And so until that is done, until that's completed, we can't go secure federal funds for a new bridge.
In July, we signed a contract with consultants to do some enhanced planning. So, you know, they're looking at the area between the Sunshine Bridge and the Horace Wilkinson Bridge. We're going to look to see where we can work with the Corps, the Coast Guard, to where we can find up to 5 different crossings. And then what we'll do is we'll move forward to find out which one of those would be the best. We don't want to spend all of our time and money looking at doing an environmental study on that whole area. What we need to do is narrow that down because it is such a huge project. It's $1 billion project, It's going to connect LA1 to LA30.
We were able to get, through a House-passed transportation bill, a high priority corridor designation for LA1, LA30, for a new bridge alignment, and that does help us get additional federal funds for a bridge. But I'll say it again, Karen, until they actually have a bridge project identified, we can't get the construction funds.
A lot of great projects going on that should be wrapping up here shortly by the end of the year. I think a lot of people will be interested in that Bright Side and Nicholson intersection that has been congested for years, especially when school is in, and as that area grows. So now with dedicated turn lanes and the repairs and at the railroad tracks, it's going to be a lot better intersection for everybody who travels that. That is going to be completed by the end of October. We have the I-10 widening from LA 73 to Highland and East Baton Rouge and Ascension parishes, and that should be finished up by the end of October as well. That's going to be very beneficial to the people of Perryville and anyone who really travels between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. So we're going to have an additional lane in each direction. We have the Government Street Road Diet that should be completed by the end of the year. So we have a lot of big, nice projects going on right here in Baton Rouge Capital Region.
Yeah, so this is a really exciting thing, but at the same time, it has some frustrations associated with it. So in the 2016 flood, Livingston Parish Sheriff Jason Ard was very concerned about his deputies because, as you know, a huge percentage of the population flooded. And so the deputies didn't have homes to live in, their families didn't have a place to live safely and securely. And so he started working with FEMA trying to get something set up to provide temporary housing, and that ended up looking like a solution that was going to take several months to get put in place. Like any good leader, he stepped up and he said, I'm going to do this. He cut through the red tape. He established his own little temporary housing facility for the deputies so he could continue to have law enforcement presence in Livingston Parish.
Because the deputies go in great lengths for us, all of us, all day, every day. And at the time when this flood happened, we had to do something. I mean, I had to make a decision to be able to try to keep them whole. We had about 85 deputies that were affected, fully lost everything, didn't have a place to live. So it's either help them establish a place to live, which was very important to Livingston Parish and the citizens, to be able to keep our parish together and whole, to maintain Livingston Parish as we know it and what we believe that it is and what we want it to continue to be. I had to make this decision to make it whole. We had to take a loan to be able to make things happen, but at the end of the day, FEMA gives you guidelines. We follow those FEMA guidelines, and so we actually worked with FEMA all the way up till we actually pulled the trigger on actually making this trailer park happen, and they were dragging their feet, and I'm just not going to have it. I mean, I'm on a timeline here. We had to make something happen. We followed all the rules, the regulations that were laid out. We actually bid mobile home trailers. I spent, the amount of money I spent was close to $35,000 on average for a new mobile home trailer. I turned around a year and a half later and got anywhere between $29,000 and $31,000 back. We used our money wisely. We got most of the money back. Whatever we didn't actually just came back to us.
He did it for less than half the cost that FEMA had projected, and so we were trying to get FEMA to pay him back, and they were basically concluded no. So we changed the law and said anytime a local government official has a solution that's 50% or lower cost of what the federal government wants to do, you pay him back. So finally got that done, and he's going to get a check for over $2.4 million that he can put back into securing Livingston Parish. FEMA came back and said that they didn't see anything under existing law that allowed that to be reimbursed. And it's really unfortunate that common sense in this case can't prevail. If FEMA can pay for it themselves, why can't they pay somebody else to do it? We know that they would be using a contractor otherwise. Why can't they look at the sheriff as a contractor in this case? And they kept giving us all kinds of excuses, so we just went ahead and changed the law and didn't just fix it for him. We said in any instance when this happens, when a local or state government can impose a solution or come up with an idea that is half the cost or less from what FEMA estimates, then you will reimburse them. And so there's no discretion on the part of FEMA, and it's going to allow for local solutions in the future. It's going to allow for faster and less expensive responses in the future as well.
That concept is being used right now to actually help sheriff's offices and communities across this state because of not only what I did, but this is also a model that Sheriff Coleman used as a chief deputy who was from St. Bernard Parish. And so it's something that has to be done. It's being done not only, was it not only done then, but now it's being done today and using as a model of what to do in these type of circumstances.
It is just frustrating, Kieran, that here we are nearly 4 years later and it took this long. We need to be incentivizing local and state governments to do things like this that are better, faster, and cheaper, not disincentivizing or penalizing them for it. And of course, waiting 4 years from this certainly looks a lot like a penalty. But at the end of the day, the precedent's been set, the policies are in place, and I think it's actually now going to be much faster in the future if we have state and local governments take advantage of this new policy.
I feel awesome about it, and I'm tickled to death for not only our sheriff's office, but the taxpayers of Livingston Parish.
This is really a win back for the citizens of Livingston because they're going to benefit by better safety, better security for the parish.